The opening of the story plunges us directly into the chaotic environment of Kylara, a storm-racked alien world where the human outpost Juno barely clings to stability. The setting itself is crucial, because it reflects the central theme: humanity's ability to survive, adapt, and even thrive where others would falter. It's the middle of storm season, when colossal rains sweep through the settlement, flooding walkways and rattling metal rooftops. Most people alien or human avoid being outside at all. But the human protagonist, Lieutenant Marcus Hale, treats it like just another shift. This already hints at a uniquely human resilience and casual bravery that will become important later. Marcus is suited up in a weatherproof exosuit and running supply errands between command centers, displaying how humanity has learned to function in such hostile conditions. The description emphasizes how familiar and unfazed he is. The heavy downpour bounces off his helmet. He's jogging through rivers of silver water, and he sees this as routine. This detail contrasts sharply with the way the alien woman will soon react, helping establish their differences from the start as Marcus crosses an open plaza. Something unexpected cuts through the roar of rain, a sharp, almost musical shriek of outrage. He stops immediately and spots her, a tall, striking Kylaran woman standing beneath a sputtering awning. The narrative takes time to describe her in detail: pale violet skin that seems to glow even in the storm gloom, long tendrils of silver hair plastered to her head, and gill-like slits along her neck that flutter anxiously. Her robes are supposed to be ceremonial and elegant, likely reserved for diplomatic appearances, but now they're drenched and clinging to her form. This is our first look at her vulnerability. She is obviously someone important, but she's completely out of her element here. The woman points at Marcus dramatically and accuses him of being the cause of her state. You did this. It's a moment of comic tension. Marcus is confused and doesn't even know who she is. But she storms forward and explains. She was standing on the lower walkway when a human Thunderwalker machine, a huge cargo walker, passed overhead on the causeway. Its heavy stomping caused a shockwave that blew out the walkway's weak energy shield, releasing a massive wall of collected stormwater that crashed down onto her. In short, Marcus indirectly drenched her in a spectacular tidal splash. This is where the cultural clash becomes obvious. To Marcus, this sounds like an accident. To her, it is a grave insult, maybe, even a form of ritual disrespect. She's humiliated, soaked, and furious. Marcus vaguely remembers driving a walker through that area earlier and realizing, yes, that was probably him. He gives a sheepish whoops response, showing how little he views this as serious and like her. Then comes the turning point of the scene and the title's hook. She demands that he fix it. Marcus, still half laughing at the absurdity, asks how she expects him to do that. And she replies with total seriousness, "With your mouth." Marcus is stunned. She explains calmly that humans produce heated air through their mouths. She has seen them breathe on their hands for warmth. Therefore, she wants him to blow warm air onto her to dry her soaked robes. It's a logical deduction from her perspective. But to Marcus and human readers, it sounds absurd and hilariously awkward. This misunderstanding also shows how little she knows about human culture. She interprets their warmth as a physical tool, not something associated with intimacy or embarrassment. Marcus looks around and notices something else important. Other aliens nearby are staring and backing away. Their reactions reveal that this woman is probably a high-ranking dignitary, someone they fear or deeply respect. The fact that she is demanding personal service from a human is shocking to them. Marcus realizes he can't refuse without causing a diplomatic scene, picks up directly where the comedic tension of part. After being dramatically drenched by Marcus's unintended tidal splash, the alien woman, now named Lysera, has demanded that he fix it with his mouth, meaning blow warm air to dry her robes. This part deepens the humor, but also starts weaving in something more personal and emotionally layered, the beginning of trust between them. They move from the open, storm-battered plaza to a small, enclosed dome at the plaza's edge. This shift in setting is important It symbolically moves them from public spectacle to a more private, intimate space. Outside, the storm still rages. But here there's quiet and dim warmth radiating from glowing stones embedded in the floor. This contrast sets the tone for the more personal, vulnerable interaction about to unfold. Lysera stands perfectly straight, water still dripping off her ceremonial robes, looking every bit the offended royal. The text emphasizes how rigid and formal her posture is, showing she still sees this as a matter of honor and propriety, not personal comfort. She orders Marcus to begin with the same commanding tone one might use to instruct servants. To her, this is not an awkward favor. It's a formal act of restitution. That cultural difference drives much of the comedy here. Marcus, on the other hand, is deeply uncomfortable. He's human, and to him the idea of blow-drying someone with his breath is embarrassing, even intimate. He protests that this isn't how humans do laundry, trying to reframe the situation as something mechanical and impersonal, but she cuts him off sharply. She clarifies that this is not laundry but a purification protocol, a ritualized way of undoing the damage he caused. This tells us that to Calorans, being drenched in the open by chaotic stormwater is a symbolic violation of personal dignity. It's not about being physically wet, it's about the meaning of being. Disheveled in public, Marcus realizes he has no way out of this. Refusing would insult her culture, possibly sabotaging human Caloran diplomacy. So, reluctantly, he agrees, muttering for her not to tell anyone about this. This human self-consciousness provides comic contrast to her complete seriousness. He steps close, and here the tone begins to shift. Up close, he sees the fine, glass-like texture of her soaked robes clinging to her skin. He bends toward her shoulder and gently blows warm air across it. This is described in slow, careful detail, warmth moving across her skin, a faint curl of steam rising. Lysera gives a small, involuntary hum of surprise. This tiny reaction breaks her cold. Formal mask for the first time and hints that she's not as unshakable as she pretends. Encouraged, Marcus keeps going, working across her sleeves, her hair tendrils, then down the folds of her robes. He's careful not to touch her, showing respect for her boundaries. The narration emphasizes the quiet rhythm of his breathing and how the fabric gradually regains its shimmer as it dries. This repetitive, gentle action builds an almost meditative mood. Contrasting sharply with the chaotic storm outside and the outrage earlier, the scene subtly becomes less comedic and more tender. Lysera watches him intently the whole time, her silver eyes tracking his every movement. Eventually, she murmurs something unexpected. "You are efficient? Gentle? I expected clumsiness." This line is important because it shows her preconceived notions about humans. She thought of them as crude, rough, and careless. Marcus disproves that by showing patience and precision. He responds with quiet honesty, saying humans might be clumsy at first, but they get better when they care about the outcome. This comment cuts through their cultural gap. It shows her that humans are capable of responsibility, of growth, and of empathy. Her next question, "You care?" is revealing. It shows she didn't expect him to. And it also hints at how isolated she must feel, used to people obeying her, not caring about her. Marcus's answer is simple and sincere. He ruined her day, so he wants to fix it. That is when she gives her first small, genuine smile, described as a crack in marble. That metaphor matters. It shows how hard her outer shell has been, and how astonishing it is for him to break through it even slightly. The moment becomes surprisingly intimate, but not in a romantic or physical way, more like a fragile bridge of trust forming. The story notes how the sound of the storm outside seems to fade, replaced by the quiet warmth inside. That subtle shift signals that this is no longer about a silly cultural misunderstanding. It's becoming personal. Two people from completely different worlds are seeing each other as individuals, not stereotypes. Serves as the emotional heart of the story. Where part 1 was comedic and awkward, and part 2 gently built trust, part 3 shifts into deeper emotional territory. This section reveals who Lysera truly is, what she risks by being on this storm-racked world, and how Marcus begins to see her not as an intimidating alien dignitary, but as a vulnerable individual. This deepening of their bond is essential because it sets the foundation for their later cooperation during the crisis in Part 4. The scene begins with Lysera, now dry and dignified again. Marcus, expecting their strange drying ritual to be the end of their interaction, is surprised when she invites him to sit with her. This moment is small, but very symbolic. Lysera is lowering the barrier between them. She's no longer commanding him like a servant or demanding restitution. Instead, she's acknowledging him as an equal worthy of conversation. This is the first overt gesture of trust from her. She formally introduces herself as Lysera, heir to the Spiral Spire. This reveals her true identity. She's not just some random Calaran noble, but effectively royalty. The Spiral Spire is likely the political or spiritual heart of her people. So her presence on Kylara's human outpost is a major diplomatic risk. Her people sent her here to form an alliance with humanity, despite widespread skepticism about humans. This revelation reframes her earlier outrage. It wasn't just about being wet. It was about being humiliated in public while carrying the weight of her people's honor. That humiliation could have undermined her mission entirely. Marcus reacts to her confession with his usual dry humor, joking that instead of forming an alliance, she got ambushed by a tidal wave. This makes her lips twitch with restrained amusement. This is important because it shows he can make her laugh despite her formal demeanor. That ability to disarm her with levity is part of what makes Marcus such a human character, his instinct to use humor in tense situations. Their conversation stretches on as the storm continues outside, creating a cozy, intimate contrast between the raging world beyond and the quiet space they share. Lysera explains that most Calarans see humans as reckless storm children, too impulsive and chaotic to trust with real power or responsibility. This aligns with how Marcus had been casually sprinting through lethal storm conditions while everyone else stayed sheltered. To the Calarans, humans seem like dangerous children who play with forces they don't respect. However, Lysera admits something surprising. She has secretly admired that recklessness. Humans not only came to this deadly planet, but managed to build a thriving colony here. Where her people see danger, humans see opportunity. That human ability to defy impossible odds fascinates her. This confession is crucial. It reveals that Lysera is not a rigid elitist like her peers. She's curious, bold, and willing to see beyond stereotypes. That is what drew her here despite the political risk. Marcus, for his part, is humbled by her words. He downplays his role, joking that his clumsiness actually helped their diplomacy. But underneath the joke, he clearly respects her courage. This is the first moment where they see each other not as alien stereotypes, but as individuals who share the same stubborn determination at the same time. Marcus senses something deeper behind her words. She is risking her status and reputation to be here. If this mission fails, she will return home in disgrace and possibly lose her claim to leadership. This gives her vulnerability real weight. She isn't just a powerful alien. She's someone gambling her future on the hope that humans are worth trusting. Their talk continues as the storm slowly eases, and the narration emphasizes how the outside noise fades into the background. This subtle detail symbolizes how they are forming a small world of their own. Within the raging chaos, a quiet pocket of understanding and warmth. The tension and awkwardness that defined their earlier interactions have dissolved, replaced by mutual respect. By the end of Part 3, they are no longer adversaries or even strangers. They are tentative allies. There's even the hint of something more personal developing between them, though it's unspoken. Marcus sees her loneliness. Lysera, used to being obeyed but not understood, feels seen by him in a way she hadn't expected. Marks a dramatic shift from quiet character building to intense action. Where Part 3 ended with Marcus and Lysera quietly bonding as the storm outside eased, Part 4 shows the sudden collapse of that fragile calm. This section tests the trust they've just built, forcing them to work together in a life-threatening crisis and showing why human adaptability is so feared and admired across the galaxy. The scene begins peacefully. Lysera and Marcus are still inside the quiet shelter dome, talking more casually now. Lysera even allows herself a faint smile as she admits she underestimated humans. But before their conversation can deepen, a violent crack shakes the floor beneath them. The tone flips instantly from warm and intimate to cold and urgent. The narration emphasizes the sensory details, a deep metallic groan from the ground. The lights flickering, the faint hiss of air being pulled in strange directions. This sudden sensory chaos foreshadows the oncoming disaster. Marcus, having lived through storm seasons before, recognizes the sound immediately. A shield breach. The colony's energy shields which protect their walkways and structures from the storm's punishing impact are failing. This is catastrophic. If the main shield collapses, the outer sections of the outpost will be torn apart by wind and water within minutes. Alarms blare. The storm outside, which had been fading, suddenly surges with renewed force, as if sensing weakness. It's described like a living predator lunging at a wounded prey. This personification of the storm contrasts human defiance with nature's fury, underscoring how dangerous this world truly is. While Lysera stiffens in panic, Marcus snaps into action with calm efficiency. This is a key turning point. The alien diplomat, despite her regal confidence, has never experienced a real planetary disaster firsthand while Marcus has survived dozens. It showcases the human trait of thriving under chaos. Marcus quickly checks the local display. The breach is near the main plasma conduits, and if water reaches them, the resulting explosion could level half the settlement. Communications are down due to interference, meaning someone must physically go and seal the breach manually. Lysera insists on accompanying him, arguing that if humans see her fleeing while he risks his life, their alliance will crumble. This is her own growth showing. In Part 1, she was concerned only about dignity. Now she risks her safety for honor and solidarity. Marcus protests, but she refuses to stay behind. Their partnership is sealed by choice, not circumstance. They plunge into the storm together. The narrative shifts to frantic sensory chaos. Rain lashing like knives. Howling winds shoving them sideways. Walkways shuddering under their boots. Marcus's training keeps him moving fluidly while Lysera, unused to such conditions, struggles but stubbornly keeps pace. This contrast highlights human adaptability versus Kalar elegance. Yet she does not falter. Proving her courage and determination, they reach the breached section, a torn open shield emitter sparking wildly as torrents of water slam through the gap. Marcus immediately sets to work, pulling out emergency patch notes from his suit while barking instructions for Lysera to stabilize the nearby support beam. She follows his orders without hesitation, showing her trust in him has solidified. This reversal is striking. Earlier, she commanded him like a servant. Now, she obeys him as an equal in crisis. The tension peaks when the storm's fury tears loose part of the walkway, nearly dragging Lysera into the abyss. Marcus lunges without thinking and grabs her hand, anchoring her against the pole. This near-death moment crystallizes their bond. There's no ceremony or calculation, just instinctive self-sacrifice. Lysera sees it in his eyes. He values her life more than his own survival. This shakes her deeply because her own people viewed duty and survival as cold calculations, never emotional instincts. For the first time, she truly understands why humans are called reckless and why they inspire fierce loyalty. With one last coordinated effort, they slam the patch node into place, rerouting power. The shield flares back to life with a blinding flash, cutting off the storm's advance. They collapse against the railing, gasping as the storm's rage muffles behind the newly restored barrier. They've saved the outpost. The text lingers on the image of them standing side by side, soaked, battered, yet victorious, a symbolic image of their newly forged alliance. Crucially, the emotional tone here shifts. Their earlier bond of awkward trust has been reforged into mutual respect earned through shared survival. Lysera, who once saw humans as chaotic children, now understands their terrifying strength because she has seen Marcus calmly walk through chaos and tame it. And Marcus, who saw Lysera as a haughty dignitary, now respects her as someone willing to risk her life for others. Part 4 ends on a quiet, exhausted moment. As emergency crews rush in, Lysera whispers, almost to herself, "Now I see. Why you survive where others perish. It's not praise, it's..." And Marcus, drenched and grinning despite everything, replies, "Told you we're stubborn like that." This closing line captures the essence of humanity's spirit in HFY fashion, defiant, unbreakable, and just a little irreverent. The cold shimmer of the Nebula Garden's artificial dawn fell over the station's outer dome as silence lingered between Khalees and Rourke. Hours had passed since the emergency, but neither of them had truly left that moment when survival blurred into something profoundly personal. They sat side by side in the observation lounge now, Khalees wrapped in a thin thermal cloak. Her usually immaculate posture softened, shoulders relaxed. Rourke sat slouched next to her, elbows resting on his knees, gaze fixed on the swirling auroras beyond the glass. Khalees broke the silence first, her voice quiet, almost hesitant. "You know, no one has ever done that for me." Rourke blinked, glancing at her. "Saved your life?" "No," she said, turning her crystalline gaze to him. "Trusted me. Believed I could make it." It struck him then how lonely she must have been. The sole representative of her kind among hundreds of species who treated her like a fragile artifact or a diplomatic tool. During the crisis, Rourke hadn't seen a delicate alien diplomat, he had seen a determined, brilliant individual fighting to survive, and he had matched her will with his own. "I didn't think about trust," Rourke admitted. "I just couldn't let you drown." Kellis's lips curved faintly. "Yet you risked drowning yourself?" He shrugged. "Humans are stubborn like that." Kellis tilted her head, studying him with an expression Rourke couldn't quite read. There was curiosity, admiration, and something gentler. "Stubbornness," she said slowly, "might be what kept you humans alive on your death world. I read the reports your oceans try to kill you. Your storms flatten cities, your own planet shifts and tears itself apart beneath your feet. Yet you thrive." "Yeah, well," Rourke replied, rubbing the back of his neck, "we don't do well with giving up." Kellis looked down at her hands, fingers tracing the faint seam on her rehydrated suit. "I thought your kind's reputation was exaggerated. Brutal, resilient, too reckless to be rational. But now I think they simply misunderstood you. You don't survive because you're reckless. You survive because you choose each other even when it's dangerous." Rourke said nothing, but the words struck deep. Then Kellis shifted closer, just enough that her shoulder brushed his arm. "You fixed my suit," she murmured, "but you fixed something else too." Rourke turned toward her. "What's that?" Her eyes shimmered like molten glass. "You reminded me I'm not alone." Something in Rourke's chest tightened. He had seen comrades break under isolation during long patrols, seen what loneliness did even to strong minds. That Kellis had endured it under the constant gaze of suspicious diplomats. It amazed him. "You're not alone," he said firmly. "Not while I'm around." For a long moment, Kellis simply looked at him, searching his face as if memorizing every line. Then, very slowly, she rested her forehead against his shoulder. It was a gesture from her culture, he remembered reading about it somewhere, a sign of profound trust. Rourke froze, then relaxed, letting her lean against him as the auroras rippled across the void outside. Eventually, she spoke again, her voice soft but steadier. "The other envoys will expect me to return to negotiations tomorrow. They will see me and think I am unchanged. But they will be wrong." "How so?" "Because now," Khalees said, a faint smile touching her lips, "I know what it means to be chosen, not as a symbol, but as a..." Khalees Rourke smiled faintly. "Then let them underestimate you. Humans are used to surprising people." Khalees gave a quiet laugh, the sound light and genuine, not the formal diplomat's mask she usually wore. "Perhaps that is what I will do. Surprise them all." As the station rotated, sunlight flooded the dome, turning her silver skin to molten gold. She straightened, drawing the cloak around her shoulders, and looked at him once more. "Thank you, Rourke, for more than saving me." And in that instant, Rourke knew the fragile alliance between their peoples had shifted not because of treaties or politics, but because two beings had chosen to see each other, truly see each other, beyond duty. Beyond fear, whatever came next, they would face it together.